To start the checkout of the turbocharger, we want to make sure that our pressure controller is working properly. So what we're going to do, we'll do a right engine start on the airplane. Here we go. We got fuel flow, we got heat, RPM is coming up. Okay, 65%, generator on, feet on the brakes. And you can kill it. Alright? Now at 65%, we're going to go to the pressure board. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to turn our right bleed air on. Left close. Bleed air is on. And we see turbo pressure. Okay? In the heat mode, it will be higher pressure. We're going to select cool. Less pressure, and we have oil flow to the turbocharger. Alright? Now we're going to go to the back. And again, we're in the cool mode, low turbo pressure and oil pressure. Bleed air is on the right engine, left engine off. Okay? What we want to do here is we have connected a pressure gauge in the turbo pressure line. Now notice, if this line were open, we would have uncontrolled pressure to the turbocharger. We have a pressure gauge, and as you can tell, we're holding about 3 to 4 pounds of pressure. Normal is 4 pounds at sea level in the cool mode. And every time this pressure drops, that light comes on. That means the black solenoid in the back of the plane is venting the pressure from the back of the diaphragm. Now, as I adjust the white potentiometer, with a small screwdriver, looking at the pressure gauge, notice I can bring the pressure up by counterclockwise rotation. I can bring it down by clockwise rotation. Clockwise means, let me get back on this, clockwise means the light will be on longer and my pressure will be lower. I set that for 4 psi for normal operation with the light flashing. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the heat mode. Select heat over here. Okay. My pressure will increase, and in order to get enough bleed air pressure, I'm going to increase my RPM from 65 to 80%. Okay. When I do that, you will notice that my pressure has come up here. I'm at 80%, so I have plenty of bleed air pressure. So in the heat mode, the pressure controller tells the turbocharger to run faster with a higher pressure. And you will see that our pressure is higher. It should be about 10 to 12 psi, and that adjustment is right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to adjust that potentiometer, and if you look at the gauge, having a rough time here. I'm going to bring that pressure up, okay? Notice I brought it up a little bit, okay? So I'm at a higher pressure now. The fluctuations are a little bit irregular because this is an abnormal situation. And the light, whenever the light is on, it vents the bleed air pressure from the back of the diaphragm. All right? Now we're going to reduce the RPM to 65%. We're going to go back to the cool mode. So when we did, notice the pressure dropped back down. So in our flight test now, what we would do is to have the airplane, we're going to climb to 15,000, let's say 15,000, and we make sure that we have a full differential. And in order to affect that, then we go forward. Set our pressure controller here for sea level, and we're going to go for full, we're going to set this for maximum change in the cabin temperature. So at 15,000 feet, we will be as high on the cabin differential pressure with a low cabin pressure and maximum differential. So at 15,000 feet, let's go back to the back. Adjust this potentiometer here, this red one, this one here, we're going to adjust it for a minimum pressure. The minimum pressure here that is required before the cabin pressure rises. In other words, while we adjust this red potentiometer, and clockwise means lower pressure, we're going to adjust it clockwise, so our cabin differential, we're going to adjust it to the point where our cabin starts to rise. In other words, with a clockwise rotation, we adjust it as far as we can before the cabin starts to rise. Which means our differential is decreasing. At that point, going back to the back of the aircraft, whatever that point is, we're going to then turn this counterclockwise, the red one, for about a 1 psi differential. In other words, supposing we get a full differential maximum at that altitude, and as the pressure rises, let's say for example we see 16 psi. Before the cabin starts to rise, we will then adjust this potentiometer counterclockwise for 1 more pound of pressure. So we are above the threshold it takes to maintain full cabin differential. Alright? Alright, now, supposing then we climb to 21,000 feet. At 21,000 feet, the pressure regulation with the pressure to the turbocharger changes from the electronic controller here to the mechanical valve over here. This mechanical valve. So at 21,000 feet, we no longer adjust the pressure controller here, but we adjust this. So at 21,000 feet, we're going to turn this counterclockwise like that until again the pressure, the cabin pressure starts to rise. We adjust that potentiometer until this cabin pressure starts to rise. Adjust this mechanical valve slightly clockwise for about 1 pound of pressure beyond the threshold where the cabin differential starts to rise, where cabin altitude starts to rise. Now supposing we are at 21,000 feet, where the electronic controller no longer is relevant and the mechanical valve takes over. We adjust this counterclockwise to reduce the pressure that we monitor here, and we're talking about typically 18 pounds of pressure. And this mechanical valve is either on the evaporator that's under the aft seat in the 5.2 psi models, or it is on the starboard side of the evaporator in the 1000 model Commanders. So we adjust this counterclockwise till the pressure starts, the cabin pressure starts increasing, and we turn this clockwise 1 pound more than what is required to make the cabin start rising. Then we climb the aircraft to 28,000 feet, and at that point, if necessary, we might adjust this again to achieve a full differential before the cabin starts rising. Right? Now, if that pressure at 28,000 feet turns out to be a lot higher, than it was at 21,000 feet, we have a high cabin leak rate that needs to be addressed. In other words, if we use excessive pressure, that means over 22 pounds of pressure, to achieve full differential at 28,000 feet, there is an airplane discrepancy, a cabin leak rate that must be addressed. So the maximum permissible pressure is about 23 or 24 psi. That's very maximum. Full deflection on the pilot panel turbo inlet pressure reading is 25 psi. So if you ever see a full deflection of all the green bars on the pilot turbo inlet pressure, there is something wrong in the airplane. It is time to shut the bleed air off, or go to emergency pressurization or standby pressurization, because otherwise you will abuse the turbocharger. So the thing is, the turbo pressure here, the red indicator, works in opposition to this one. In other words, if I turn this control 2 turns clockwise, I must turn this one about half as much 1 turn counterclockwise. So while I'm at 21,000 feet, if this requires more than a turn of clockwise rotation or counterclockwise, I must turn this control half or 1/3 in the opposite direction while I'm at that altitude. Red control, so many turns clockwise or counterclockwise, I must turn this one counterclockwise about 1/3 that number of turns. Then when I land, before I shut the engines down, I will go to cool operation, and I will touch this up to achieve 4 psi pressure in cool at sea level with this white potentiometer. And the other thing to do while you're doing a ground run-up is to make sure that the turbo is operating smoothly. In other words, before I go to 80% RPM, I will go back and cool, make sure the turbo does not have excessive vibration, and I will also increase my RPM to 80%, and I will go back and make sure in the heat mode that the turbo is working smoothly. During normal operation, when the aircraft is operating in either air conditioning or in the cool mode, the exhaust of the turbocharger comes out of this 2-inch duct right here. So as the airplane is running, the turbocharger on, bleed air on, you want to be sure that the air, of course, comes out here. Once you change to heat, and you have at least 80% RPM, what happens, the heat valve has enough bleed air pressure to swing the outflow of the turbocharger so that the air no longer comes out of this duct, and it comes out at a very low velocity over the heat exchanger and out here. So what happens, you go to heat 80%, this duct no longer has air coming out of it, and instead all of the air comes out here. When we are in the warm or in the heat mode, this thermostat controls cabin temperature. It does not control it in cool or air conditioning. So what happens whenever we want to heat, that red LED is on. I can't turn it off right now because our outside temperature is below freezing. Under normal situations, that LED will go on and off as I hit the particular temperature of the cabin. As I rotate this temperature control in the warm mode, assuming that we have average temperature conditions, you will see the scoop move up and down. Yep. Is moving up as my red light is on the thermostat.